So yeah, I suppose just to kind of introduce for those who are new to this type of meetup, this is a fairly informal kind of meetup. We call it a community discussion, and it's just an opportunity for us to all get together and talk about the Manchester Java community and how we kind of, I suppose, planning, organising, if people want to get more involved, more hands-on with helping run the community, how we can make that happen. So like, I think this is our third one, I think. So I had a couple and they have made a difference. We've kind of started to become a bit more active over the past couple of months with a few initiatives. So I think it's been fairly positive so far. There's, I suppose, a kind of a group of probably about 4 or 5 of us who are kind of generally involved in these. So you've got myself, Nick, we've got Jonathan Bullock, we've got Helen's started to get more involved, we've got David Underwood, Craig McDonald as well, who isn't on here. So there's already kind of a core of a few people who are kind of fairly active in the community in terms of helping plan. Hi Swapnil, good to see you. But we're always kind of looking for more people to help because it can be quite a time consuming task running a community. Everyone's got lives that they're living. So being able to kind of divvy up the load in terms of things like trying to connect with new speakers, just having ideas around type of events we might want to run, that kind of thing is just really useful. So we've got a Slack channel where we have most of our conversations. I will try and get a link to that, an invite link to that into the chat of this call at some point. Or if anyone else can do that in the background, that'd be really useful. So yeah, if you're kind of thinking you're keen to get more involved after this call, getting involved in that little Slack community is probably the best place for us to kind of chat about ideas and things and little initiatives we've got going on. So we've got, I suppose I've not really got much of an agenda for this. I'm heavily underprepared for today, but kind of thinking back, there's a couple of kind of key things that we've had going on. One was the Manchester Java community website. So that was we've got a GitHub pages repository on GitHub that serves up a very kind of simple website at the moment. It's just like a landing page more than anything. But the idea with that piece of work is that we're looking to use JBake, and JBake's a static site generator created by none other than Jonathan Bullock, who's on the call. So it's Java related in terms of a static site. So you've got things like Jekyll that you may have heard of. There's things like Hugo, I think, is another one, solving the same problem, but this is a JVM ecosystem tool. So we're looking to use that essentially to bake our static site and produce something that's a bit more fully featured than we've had before. I'll try and grab a link to that actually and put it into the chat. And we've got a GitHub organization. So this is another place you can join and follow some of the things that are happening. And we're trying, one of the goals is we want to try and do everything as open as possible. So the Slack channel is pretty open. We talk about things in there. We don't try to keep, unless it's something sensitive, we'll keep it out in the open and not behind closed doors. And trying to make the community, I suppose, a bit more open source in general. And that makes it easier for people to get involved and contribute. So I'm going to put into chat now, we've got a GitHub organization called Manchester Java Community. And in there's a couple of projects. The website one is called Manchester Java Community.github.io. And we're using it for, I suppose, a couple of purposes. One is to maintain that project and kind of create that website and get that published at some point. And there's a specific issue which I'll share that covers that. But also we use it as a project board. So in GitHub you can have project boards, and I should probably have done screen share, to be honest. I might do that because me kind of sharing lots of links with you and talking randomly isn't as good as actually just showing you what I'm looking at. So let's go for desktop 2. So hopefully that's sharing.
Yeah, I can see it.
Correct. Yeah, so we've got on the, let's make it bigger, on the Manchester Java community, I'm sharing the right screen, aren't I? You can see the GitHub project board.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, the notification pops up on my other screen, so it's a bit confusing. So we're using it to kind of track our planning as well for events going forward. And it's been quite nice, actually. It gives us a nice visual way of kind of seeing the different types of events we've been having. So it's just a very simple Kanban board. Ultimately, you've kind of got some ideas, what's essentially in progress, and then what we've done. And we've got different ways of labeling up as like workshops, talks, community discussions like this one is, that kind of thing. So we got quite optimistic in a sense around the future, and this is the difference kind of having these community discussions has had, in that we've got like events now planned up until the end of October, where for a period it was a bit like of a struggle to kind of get things together. So that's really positive. Got different kinds of events as well. Some still need a bit of fleshing out. So that's really cool. And then we've got an ideas column for things that are just, either in progress, things we might be interested in as, community people, like topics we want to find out about. And this would be a place where anyone can just put anything essentially that they're interested in. You don't have to have a speaker lined up. It might be, I want to learn about Spring Boot. And then hopefully somebody within, our community has some kind of connection into somebody from the Spring team. Maybe it's like someone like Josh Long. We could get him. He's spoke at the Java community before. I'm sure he'd be up for doing it again. He's a busy man. That's always a challenge with someone like Josh. But we'd go away and try and kind of make these things happen. So that's kind of one side of things. We're trying to make the community more open, more accessible to people to get involved. And I think so far we've done some small things, but I think they've been positive. They seem to be working.
Oh my God, my psychic powers are. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me just come up. I know. Does it all of it?
Okay. I don't think Helen was supposed to be on mute, so I just muted her. Off mute, I mean. So I think that as a means of an introduction, I think I don't want to just ramble, because I will. I'm very good at that. So I'm going to stop myself. And just kind of, I suppose, there's no real agenda for today. It's just kind of opening up a bit. Like, what have people been up to in terms of things related to the community, if anything? Or is there anything specifically you'd like to talk about today?
Does anyone have any ideas for people they'd like to see give a talk, or topics? Is there anything that anyone? Yeah. So far, I've created a few ideas just purely because of what I've been interested in, but it's free to anybody to create those suggestions.
I'm expecting. Sorry. Okay. Java 17 next month, obviously, big hot topic. Next LTS, blah blah blah. Pretty sure everyone's still on Java 8, but some talks around what's in Java 17 and potentially some upgrade routes from 8 to 17 via 11 or 11 to 17, whatever that looks like, could be quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely a good shout. It's going to be very relevant, isn't it?
Yeah.
At that point. Yeah, we had a talk, didn't we? It was like up to Java 16, which was useful. But yeah, I think this next release is going to be... Well,
it's supposed to be this LTS, although it doesn't have a lot of the whole LTS thing is weird anyway.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Well, I think it'd be better if it was complicated, but it's just simple, isn't it? It's like every six releases? Yeah, it's an LTS regardless of what's in it. But it doesn't have a lot of the big ticket items, so I'm not sure what that looks like.
I mean, it's an interesting kind of point, because like it's an LTS in the terms of how long it will be supported by Oracle ultimately, isn't it? But yeah, in terms of features, I think the release, I suppose, model of this 6 months just means that things have been making their way into the main kind of JDK.
Sure. I mean, it's an exciting release. There's cool stuff in it, which would be good to learn about. I
suppose it's big bang in the sense that people who only stick to LTSs will get everything from 11 up to 17, won't
for
they?
Sure. That's a huge delta.
That's what we'll be doing where I work, and hopefully doing it pretty quickly after it goes live. Cool. So it's quite exciting.
So you'll be giving a talk on your upgrade journey then, Nick?
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll be a bit of a boring
Let's
talk,
get
though.
that on the
To be
board.
honest, yeah, I'm hoping that'll be a bit of a boring talk, but we'll see. I suppose it. No, I mean, so from a kind of a platform offering, giving people Java 17 is probably quite easy. For people moving their apps to Java 17 from 11, that's probably the more interesting and potentially kind of tricky path. So yeah, I'll see if I can pull any kind of war stories out of that as we go.
Good.
It's a good idea.
Christopher?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, is the Manchester Java community going to be moving back into Manchester from online? Because yeah, that's good to hear.
Sorry, I mean, I was like, yeah, as in not as in yes, but yeah, as in good question. So
The way it strikes me is like I kind of stopped. I have to be honest, I'm not a fan of like, part of it is a meetup event is about meeting up, and it's not only the subject material, but it's meeting like-minded people, it's going to the pub afterwards, it's all these things. And you may as well be a member of the Brisbane or Melbourne Java group, because you're never going to meet the people anyway unless you're meeting up.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree and get that. So I think somebody else asked me this, and I think the message I kind of gave to them was like, in general, yes, but I suppose ultimately only when people feel safe to do so, which I don't know, maybe they do already, I don't know. But then there's another factor is venues will have us. So people will allow us to host our events in Manchester. That's another kind of box we have to tick, because like I know where previously we hosted them at Auto Trader where I work. But we're not even back in the office yet. So we're not even having our employees back in, let alone host external events. So it might be that we could do them elsewhere. So that'd be a possibility. But yeah, so I think in general, yes, we will get back into Manchester, and for the exact reasons you described there. I mean, I totally agree that in-person kind of networking, connections and stuff is hugely valuable. And while it would be nice to think that our meetups are unique while they're online, like you say, they're not really. They're kind of, a lot of the time it is a kind of a webinar feel ultimately. And we've had some thoughts about like this kind of session actually is one of the events we do that isn't, is a bit more connected. But it only works with small numbers really. If this was like 40 people, that's really difficult to manage. So yeah, the goal is to get back into Manchester, but I suppose it's tricky, would be until everything's a bit more open and everyone's a bit happier and feeling safer. Are
you looking for a new venue then? New host?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily looking at this point. I hadn't really thought about it. But yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, like if I was to run them, it's probably going to coincide with me being back in the office in Manchester because I don't live in Manchester. So it was always convenient, like work at Auto Trader, host them at Auto Trader. However, growing this group of people means it's not that constraint, or my personal constraint around kind of time and preference isn't necessarily a factor. So if there's other opportunities there to run the events somewhere else, and there's other people who want to kind of host those events and help organize and run them, then that's great. And we should definitely explore that.
We had a discussion about hosting the Rust communities events. So probably I would catch up with those people and see whether ARM can host it. It's also in central locations, so it would be hopefully convenient for people.
So are you based at the university? Is that right?
No, now I work for ARM. So.
Oh right, yeah, you moved to ARM, didn't you? Yeah. All right. So ARM are looking to kind of host some events centrally as well, potentially.
Yes. So Rust people, they are still hosting online, but the idea is to host them in ARM at some point.
Okay.
So probably I'll try to get in touch with those people. They would know like what people think. At the moment, yes, it's definitely online. We would be back in office towards the end of September. That's the plan. So maybe afterwards.
Yeah, that sounds great. Definitely worth exploring. I think something that's been in my mind around is kind of what do in-person kind of meetups look like in the future? are they a bit more hybrid in kind of nature? Because I really like the fact that the benefit of the online stuff is that we get content out of it at the end and recordings. And while we don't get the connections in people as a community, we're sharing more like via YouTube and stuff. So it'd be really nice to kind of keep that. But at the same time, there's the technical side of that is kind of having good quality in-person recordings that we're then maybe also streaming at the same time, or at least sharing after the fact. So there's a few bits in there that I think we don't need to know the answers to start with. We just get back to doing some in-person events and kind of take it from there. But I'd like to think we could kind of maybe try and do something a bit more active in that sense as well.
We might be able to do something like a hybrid model that you alluded to, Nick. So perhaps keep the online meetups because everybody's comfort level and zone and circumstances are different, but also start to do with those people who are comfortable doing so, smaller in-person meetups. And that might just be, Christopher alluded to it, it might be initially, let's go to the pub and have a drink and meet some people, not necessarily get on stage and give a Java talk, but let's have part of that networking. So people who want to go into Central Manchester or already working there can meet other like-minded people and learn from and make the connections. And then, because I think part of the problem that we've got is we're all working on a what if, and we're all reading the news. And we're all like, oh, what if there's a big winter peak? What if the vaccines need a booster? What if this? What if what? And we don't know, and we have no idea. So everybody's really reluctant to kind of, okay, not everybody, a lot of people are really reluctant to put that 1 foot forward. But some people are in that comfortable place. So if those people are, then maybe just a more social meetup could work on a much smaller scale, because of course a lot of this is going to be linked to larger groups of people, right? As more people, the risk goes up.
No, I think you're totally right. I think while within the rules and the law and everything,
it's hard.
We should kind of base that. If people feel comfortable doing these things now, we should explore it and kind of make it happen. I mean, I think personally, I'd be okay with meeting people. If it is just to start with, just for that social kind of geeky catch up. Well, that's
the low bar, isn't it? So that's why I thought start there, and then you don't need to worry about the tech. You do get to network. You do get to meet people. Maybe it's a starting point. Yeah. For those who would like to do that.
Start to have a think about that. I suppose the thing will always be coordination and numbers. Like back when it was all open, everyone was, most people were in Manchester anyway because they were working. Now we're all working different days.
Some of us have fled the city.
So a bit more difficult.
But some are still central, like Christopher, and maybe that would go some way to addressing a need. I
think what I've always found is if you don't try it, you just never know, do you? So I think having someone taking that initiative, set something. If you want to set something up, see who turns up, and often if it's only a few people, they're often kind of the best events in my experience, because it's a kind of closer knit kind of group and a lot of good chat. So I suppose we could take an action away on that, to be honest, and try and I don't know if we were to kind of set something up, do we feel like now is the time? Do we feel like maybe next month, a couple of months, or is there anything we would be waiting for before we were to kind of organise some kind of in-person informal gathering?
Just coming from Rochdale way, North Manchester, all the trains and trams are being done over the summer, so there's no actual way to get into central Manchester until the end of this month. So I suppose informal. I could drive, but I'd prefer to wait for a train. Just that might affect some other people coming from around my way as well.
True.
So I'm glad not to be working in Manchester at the moment, because at the moment it'd be a nightmare for me.
I suppose one thing to think about is it is like summer holidays at the moment as well. So maybe just timing wise, we always sort of drop off in people generally around summer because people have got other plans or other responsibilities that they have to deal with. So maybe it's something to kind of look at towards the end of September or something. We could maybe get something in the diary, see what kind of interest we get, and just kind of try and. It's going to be difficult in terms of choosing the best day, and I mean we just probably got to choose a date, haven't we? And whoever is up for it, try and kind of fit our schedules around it. Yeah, sounds like a good thing. It's easy to kind of put these things off, and I think we're probably generally I've got into the habit of that anyway, of like just accepting being constrained and locked down. I need to get out of that habit and start doing more things. So I think I'm up for that.
It just comes down to everybody's comfort level.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not comfortable with that, but I suspect there are people on the school who are comfortable with that, and it's complete personal preference. So I suggest just pop a date in the diary and see if it works for people. I know, Christopher, it was you who expressed a desire to perhaps have a bit of a more social engagement. Would something like that work for you, or is that not what you're looking for as much?
Yeah, totally. I reckon probably there's a lot of pent up demand for meetups. I'm in the start of my career. I started my career in lockdown, and progress was just obliterated by not having that feedback loop with senior developers by my side. Why isn't this doing this or all that? The more in-person stuff, the better for me.
Have you joined the are you planning on joining the Slack group, just out of interest?
I didn't know about it. I actually logged on to Meetup last week. I'd kind of deleted my old account, so
right. So maybe start a little chat about that if you don't mind in the Slack group. And I think as you're possibly kind of you've had the idea, it's probably worth you kind of maybe taking a bit of a lead on that. If you're happy to, we can help you kind of through that in terms of getting a meetup event set up and things like that. But trying to kind of coordinate a bit of a date and get something in the calendar, and then we'll just make it happen.
I also thought I started a Java Slack channel on my work Slack and asked if anyone else was doing the Oracle OCP exam. Nobody was, because all the cool kids are doing AWS certs now.
Right, okay.
But I just thought, given like Java Meetup is Java focused, like I might just do a shout out about that as well. See if anyone else is studying it, because I know a lot of people are doing certs at the moment. So
yeah, definitely. I think Oracle, they did it a few months back. They offered like some kind of discount period, and I think it's finished now. But the person who kind of organized that was someone called Sharat Chanda, I think he is. And I'm wondering if there might be an opportunity there to reach out to him and ask him to come and talk to us about what it is. Essentially what is OCP, the certification process, how it all works, why would you want to do it, that kind of thing. That might be kind of an interesting little session that we could run. That sound kind of useful as well.
Definitely. When I got to about the 600th page of the 1200 pages, I was asking, why would you want to do it as well? But it will be useful when
Has anybody done that who's on this call? Any of the certs?
I think I did the OCP for 6 or 7 a few years ago. I did see the same promotion as well, and it did pique my interest but I kind of brought back horrible memories of studying again. So I wanted to stay away
from
having
the time, isn't it, as well, sometimes for these things.
It's a commitment of time, I think. I thought, nah.
Yeah.
My wife was doing and making me solve the problem, so I'm kind of aware of OCP recently, but it just like repetitive getting told that you don't know Java enough. So but it would be nice if someone throws some light on like what all the things that one should look at and how to prepare maybe.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'm going to take that as an action, and I'm going to have to leave this call, unfortunately. So I'm going to leave it to the rest of you capable people to continue. I've just got other responsibilities, unfortunately, today, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I'll take that away around. I'll reach out to Sharon and see if we can kind of try and set something up. And I think we'll catch up in Slack about trying to set up that in-person, informal get-together as well. I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm a bit scared to kind of leave the call, so I'm probably just going to mute and turn my camera off, to be honest, in case it ends the call for everybody. So I'll catch you all in a bit. Cheers.
I suppose the other thing Nick started talking about at the start of the call was the Manchester Java Community website. I suppose I'll talk about that next. If anyone else hasn't got anything else they'd like to bring up. Is there anything else, Craig, Dave, that you wanted to bring up?
I've missed most of the
right,
most of the calling. I've had massive problems getting on at work, so I've had to steal a meeting room and connect to the public Wi-Fi and disable my local firewall. So I've missed most of it. But yeah, I think the biggest hurdle was just learning JBake. So I did start digging through your documentation, but it's going through that's what I found the biggest hurdle to get started.
Okay, so to kickstart the website, on one of the links I think Nick put out, there is a issue, website content ideas and suggestions, that's got a commentary. The idea was I was converting any pre-existing template to JBake. I did do an initial conversion of it. I put a link to what it looks like online as an idea of maybe it's one we could use to start a website with. I don't think it was well liked, reading between the lines, but if anybody, I suppose that's the first kind of hurdle for us. I'm not a front-end developer. I'm more of a back-end developer, so that's where I gravitate to. So CSS is not my favored thing to get involved in or do design. But if there's anybody who has an idea of a good template that they would like the look of, something that we can repurpose. I know various, Jekyll's got a lot of them, Hugo's got a lot of them that have been converted before. I suppose that was going to be our starting point, to get a template that we thought would work and get a website started using that template. So there is an issue. Let me put a link to that thread so everybody else can have a look at what was done, maybe comment whether they like it or not. The reasoning behind it is documented in there. I needed to do this for something else I was doing with JBake. But there are some links to various HTML5 templates. So if anybody has some suggestions or ideas, or they're better at graphic design than me or site design than me.
Everything that I've done, it's interesting to see other people's way of thinking, because I tend to do it the other way. I tend to start small and then build out, rather than picking something existing, because then you tend to have lots of CSS that you don't know what the hell it's there for. So I tend to go the other way, like just get a piece of paper and just jot out what I think I want it to look like, and then start building it out from there. Otherwise, like I said, you end up having like JavaScript that you're not sure what it's doing, or CSS that you're not sure what it's applying to. And just picking something that people know, like, I don't know, Bootstrap or something like that, which is fairly well known. We don't really need a lot. We probably need a couple pages. Yeah, I did have a look at the template, but I find it, I prefer like more density in terms of the information, where that was like a big banner and like everything like scrolling down. So it's just personal preference, really. If people just are okay with that, then that's fine. But it's getting the color scheme right.
The stock JBake templates are more of a learning resource, than more to give you an idea of what's possible with the template, the JVM-based templating engines that JBake supports. They were done quite a few years ago, but they are based on Bootstrap, an old version of Bootstrap. But that's something you could start with, at least get the content worked with something like that. It gives you a starting point. We can always tackle graphic design or a design in a later process, if that's a better way to start off.
Yeah, I installed JBake, but I started reading through the documentation, but it's juggling that with everything else. So, but yeah, I'd like it done sooner rather than later, just to get something up and running.
Well, maybe that's the best way to start, get something up and running. Even if it's a holding page, just start, to say this is the start of the website. With the basic information we want to put, whatever the next talk is, what the next event, and grow it from there. And have something that people can get their hands with, dirty with, and get stuck in with it, adding new content as people see ideas.
I think because that was one of like another meetup I'd be interested in. I'll raise it for it is kind of a meetup on contributing to the website kind of thing. So like
Okay.
we could start with like a contribution guide, and this is how you'd contribute to the site. And maybe we could start with like a README as well, and this is how to get it up running locally so you can view it in its current way, and whether we take a branch and mess around with it, or but yeah, I thought maybe having a meetup kind of a bit more hands-on,
like a hacking session.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, I was looking for the word.
Okay.
Has anyone on here done a talk about JBake already?
I might have already done one.
I would like to add something to it. So, for example, to build a website, whatever skills and things that you need, probably I have enthusiasm. Beyond that, I don't know how to do it. So it would be nice if the session is kind of covering for people who don't have any background with JPEG, if you have mentioned. So yeah, so for example, I want to make changes and contribute, but then I have got no idea, so I can get into the session and get some push, so I can then go and work on my own.
Okay.
Yeah, so and it could potentially bring contributors to JBake as an open source project as well. So you could bring that into it as well, saying, here's some open issues that are easy for first timers. I was looking at the project last night, and I think you've got some tags on for easy fixes. Yeah. So you could possibly bring that as well.
Yeah, that was there was a initiative to try and just make it more easily accessible. For somebody who comes to any project, it's daunting. Where do you start? So it's good to have some labels on issues that might be a good introduction. Okay, I'll take away an action then about maybe having a hacking session, scheduling something that like this, like an informal community session, less of a talk at you, but more of a, activity based, like the workshop we just had with JFrog, something like that. We can do it in between, it doesn't have to wait until next month. Then we could schedule something. Would middle of the day or evening be better for everybody for that kind of a session?
I'm fine with either, but if it's during lunchtime, I need about a week's notice to make sure that I've got no conflict with anything.
Would a hacking session need? I'm just thinking. For me personally, I tend to be on my work laptop during the day, so it makes what I do hacking wise a bit more of a problematic. Would anyone else be in that similar position, or
I can work from home and then use my own machine?
Okay,
but yeah, like I've just found out now, like we've had a change obviously at work, so it's kicked me off getting access to Zoom, so you don't want that on the day.
I know. I
firewall rules and proxies and
proxies
corporate policies.
Yeah,
on-site evening is better from quite a few people than going forward.
Okay, so we'll plan something for an evening then.
I think it might need more than an hour as well. It might be good to have a bit longer than an hour.
2 hours, yeah. Okay. I'll take that action away then, and get something scheduled for that. So that was the website. Is anybody else got anything?
I'm not sure what we discussed. I'm guessing you went through about meeting in person.
Yeah, we talked about the project board.
Okay.
Started with that. Nick showed what we'd set up with that, where ideas were being placed. And then the idea was potentially having an in-person meetup. Okay.
Yeah, because I really fancy getting together with people and speaking to everyone in person. So I haven't met everyone yet. So
I find it a jar. When we end the sessions with speakers, not to talk to the speaker afterwards and just say thanks for attending. It's a very weird. Just that's it. The end.
Ends.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, does that just natural conversation that happens after? I miss that.
Yeah.
You just don't get it with Zoom.
Yeah, but I've been on other meetups where they'll officially end the recording and then people can stay on and just talk.
Okay.
So you get the sort of social aspect after the official meetup's finished. They'll just leave the Zoom thing running, but don't record it, and you can just stay on talking about whatever stuff you fancy. So I don't know if that's possible, but it's still not the same as meeting people in person.
No.
We had a new team member on our project this morning, and it was really funny because she came on the call and she said, "Hi, my name is Rach," or whatever it was, and then there was this monstrous silence, and then someone just burst out laughing and said that, even after 18 months, we've still not
used to it.
We don't even know how to introduce ourselves, and it was just so awkward. So,
well, we've had people at work join us during COVID and leave during COVID, so I've never met them. So I'm guessing people have been in the same boat.
Yeah, I did that pretty much. Well, started 2 weeks before lockdown, and then never met anyone after that.
Yeah. I've got someone in my team that joined just 2 weeks before lockdown, but I had to go into quarantine, so I've never met them in person yet. It's been 18 months of just seeing them on Zoom calls.
Yeah, so it'd be good to meet in person, even if it's not an official meetup, even if it's just a social thing for, like, I don't know, a few drinks or something like that before we get into proper meetups again. Well, I mean, the thing that I'm really after is like code jams and things like that, but I don't know how much interest there is from everyone else.
Was Nick saying that, we were actually just saying that just before you joined the call, Craig, I think. Was Nick saying, though, that Ultra Trader are no longer willing to host? Or, I mean, are you looking for a new venue? Because I could reach out to my company and see if they'd be willing. They're quite central.
I think, I don't know exactly what the situation with Ultra Trader myself, but I'm guessing that they're not comfortable with having external non-staff people attend their office just yet. I think that might be a time. But yeah, if you can approach your employer and see if they'd be willing in the meantime, that might be another option. Be good to know that there are other venues that would be available.
We're in King Street at the moment, so that's fairly central. Yeah, okay, I'll reach out to our MD.
Okay, I can't comment on, I'm in North Wales, so I don't really know Manchester that well. I tend to drive across whenever there's a meetup, so I don't know whether location-wise, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. I'll let other people comment on that. Well, the other thing we talked earlier on was about there is, from the project board in GitHub, there are some talks scheduled for the rest of the year. If anybody has any ideas, or they've seen another talk somewhere else, or they've heard of a topic. One thing I think Helen's mentioned at the start was with Java 17 coming out fairly soon, having a talk on that. I'll put something down on the ideas board to try and see if anybody is giving a talk in the, I suppose, Java community about Java 17, see if we can reach out to them, see if they could come and give a talk to us. Unless has anybody seen anybody giving talks on Java 17 yet? I'll put that down on the ideas board.
People are still saying about the new features in Java 11, so.
I know. Take a while to get the adoption up. I
remember when Java 9 came out, we had a hack day on Java 9 where we tried out some of the new features. So following the talk on Java 17, we could have a similar thing what we had for Java 9, maybe.
Do you know who I vaguely remember that. Do you know who ran that? I can't. Was it a weekend?
It was a Saturday, yeah. I think it's on. I think I think it's on YouTube or the pictures are on Meetup. But yeah, I can't remember.
I remember Debbie gave a talk
yeah.
on. Was that wasn't at the weekend? That was in the week, but it was around then, wasn't it? It was around the time.
Because I think the talk might have been at the co-op, maybe building a fund foundation. Is it called? Yeah. But yeah, it could do a similar thing where, you know, once we have a talk on the new features, we could you know, similar to the issues, we could pick like the three new features and have a kind of a mess around with them.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, I like that Code Jam Hackagarten. That's something I personally like, so I'd be very up for attending a call like that.
That's really what I'm here for. I'm here for code jams, things like that. And then the other thing that we talked about was more of the Q&A style talks, which I thought went really well with Ron Presler. So that's the sort of thing. The other stuff, it is nice to have, but you tend to see that on all the other meetups. So it'd be nice to do something a bit different, which is why I wanted to give it like a bit of a different name. So we could tag it outside the typical meetup. I don't know, like MJC talks to, and bring in whoever. But I'm not sure people are happy on that idea.
I shared a blog from Carl. He's an engineer working at Netflix, and it talks about their migration from Java 11, I guess, or to Java 11. So probably it would be nice to have a talk that really describes the problems what people face while migrating, because probably most of the times like people wouldn't know what are the complexities that you might face. So what is the approach to take, like slowly changing things? So if someone has done with their project, or probably I don't know, getting an open source project and doing some migration for a small project as a hack exercise would be an interesting thing to do. So once you actually do, then you know what things to look at. Probably it's very easy or maybe not possible to migrate, but then just people might not know where to start. So it would be helpful to have such a day. Especially if you know the stack, like, oh, we are using XYZ things and we migrated it, then it would be like very similar, like you use Spring Boot and other stuff, then it would be like, oh yeah, it's, that seems very similar to what we do, and that could be easy.
Specifically, are you talking in relation to Java 17 or maybe just Java 16, Java 15 kind of thing?
In general, like migrating typically, for example, we work more on the compiler side, so we want to know what people want, basically. But then in general, like if someone is on Java 8 or Java 11, then what is causing them difficulties to migrate? For example, at ARM, we only support Java 11 onwards for ARC64. So if someone is on Java 8, then it would be very important to know what it would take.
What's holding them back?
Yeah, to 11.
Okay.
It's really difficult to then go back and backport things and make Java its compiler do things.
Okay. Could you create an entry on our board relating to this? Just an idea of a talk that we can, maybe somebody else in the community might has maybe aware of somebody else who said, that reminds me of this talk somebody else gave. We can maybe reach out to that person and see if they give that talk or a related talk to us at the Manchester Java community.
Sure. I would. Great. That would be the first time me doing.
There we go. That's open source.
No, the ticket, like I haven't used the board.
Okay.
If I do something.
Documentation is just an equally important part of open source software. Okay. Anybody else got any talk ideas or anything they'd like to?
I can do, or I can get someone to do on Graal sides of things. But then, I mean, the impression of people in the team, they are more like, oh, very few people would be interested in knowing about the details. So I don't know whether it is of interesting. Like, I'm at the moment working on string dot index of and string dot compare, like making it faster on processors. But if that is of interest to anybody.
That sounds really awesome. Like, one of the things that I've always wondered about is, like, you know, how do you actually optimize for, you know, closer to the metal? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes.
That kind of thing really floats my boat because I've never gone anywhere near that. So.
Oh, then it's awesome. Yeah, I can definitely do a talk. Like, if you want to know how exactly something is compiled to, or something is faster or slower, that kind of thing, which would be like, if you want to use a hash map, and hash map is of 100 values and 1 million values, what difference it makes, and what you need to do to really evaluate at a micro level, like what's the difference? Because at the application level, it's always like, you never know what is taking more time.
I think there's definitely an appetite for more in-depth topics. I know the Ron Presler Q&A we did got really good feedback, and that was a bit of a, we didn't know whether that was going to be a success or not. I say success, whether there'd be an appetite for that kind of a topic talk, but that was well received from the feedback we got. So please, if you've got a talk idea, and if either yourself or somebody you know is willing to give a talk, by all means, if you create that suggestion, and we can take it further from there. Try and schedule something.
Yeah, anything JVM internals will be great.
Oh, then there are also some interesting things, like there would be probably for Hackaday things, like what algorithms like strings use, for example, and like when you have small strings, large strings, how the performance changes, because you can switch to one form of one algorithm to another. So if you have a chance to, let's say, do things or choose things which one to do, so you will have an idea, like, oh, you know, this would not be efficient and stuff like that. So and seeing like what happens under the hood, it's in general very interesting, but it would be more like generic algorithm kind of things, very close to assembly. But yeah, it would be also nice.
I think there's definitely an appetite for that topics.
Oh, that's nice.
And I think there's quite a few people on the meetup group for the Manchester job. Everyone's got their own. It might not be a topic they're interested in their day-to-day job, but it might be a personal interest for them. And they might, you know, it might just be, yeah, that's right up my street, that topic. So by all means, please suggest.
Oh, great. Because
yeah, we might get pickup from LJC members as well that have an interest in that area.
Yes.
Because previously, when this topic came, somebody mentioned, oh, we use it 3 times a day and that's a solved problem. I was like, ooh, okay, then it's not something of interest to people. But yeah, we'll definitely put things there in the board.
Yeah, if you create ideas in there, and we can start just fleshing out. You know, have you got a talk? If somebody's already got a talk that they've done before, great. But we can obviously work with somebody and kind of narrow down something down to a talk.
Little session that I proposed, which I don't know whether it warrants like a publicized meetup event, but it was around the website really, and trying to get a few of us together to do a bit of a hack session to try and, you know, push forward with what you've already done, Jonathan, around like that template, and just trying to get, you know, an initial version of the website up, and also then share that knowledge between a few of us at the same time. That means any of us can just pick it up and, you know, evolve it. I don't think it needs to be a meetup, but maybe that would be interesting. I don't know, because it could be like an intro to JBake and then hacking on a real problem, or we could just get together like outside a meetup and just do it via our Slack group, organize a session where whoever's interested can just jump on a call at a scheduled time, and we try and do some, make some progress essentially.
Yeah. I think that's what I don't know whether you'd already walked away.
All right, sorry. Just repeating.
No, that's that. Was it? I don't know whether it was Dave that suggested that, or
I think so. And then so we come away with so we've got like a README with this is how you launch the website locally, so you can have a look at it, and then how you could, like, a contribution guide as well. So that would be like the first couple of things we could look to add.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, so we can chat about that more then, I suppose, in Slack, can't we? And kick that off.
I think have like maybe the evening seems to be preferable, but for 2 hours session rather than just an hour. Right. Just schedule something sometime where we can all less, I suppose, formal.
Yeah.
Just a bit more getting everybody onto the same knowledge level about JBake maybe, and then taking it further.
I think we shouldn't worry too much about kind of making sure it works for everybody. Like, I mean, evenings are difficult for me, but that's fine. So I think we should still make it happen. I don't need to be in it, for example. So obviously Jonathan does, but
it could be,
but at least initially.
Yeah. Just to get everybody kickstart it, I suppose.
Yeah,
and I think
we'll generally work better asynchronously on things like that anyway. So having that kickstart, and then hopefully we can just kind of, if we're not comfortable, PR things and stuff like that, and get review a bit more asynchronously, like an open source project anyway.
Yeah,
it'll kind of work better for our communication paths that we've currently got.
Just trying to think of other things that we could cover.
Yeah, I wanted a few more Q&A sessions, but I think I turned around and we had tons of stuff booked. There was like 1 or 2 weeks, and we just nailed like
the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I turned around like everything was taken up.
I think as you'll find with a lot of these, it's opening the conversation is sometimes the hardest part, and then finding a date. If it's a bit further out, that's fine. But trying to kind of create that initial contact with whoever we want to be in a Q&A is probably the key thing there. So at least we've got a bit of a kind of a dialogue, and we're building a bit of a relationship with them. So have you got somebody in mind for that already?
Yeah, I wanted to get somebody on. Roman Kenke, he works on ZGC for Red Hat, but then you'd sort of at the same time wanted to get on Monica as well to talk about.
Right.
But I don't know if it's still worth getting somebody on like that to really dig into the internals of how it works and dig through source code and that sort of stuff. That's sort of what I'm after, really.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Monica's kind of confirmed. So yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe for that specific topic at least, we see what that brings us and feel like if there's anything more we want after that. And it might be that, then a follow-up Q&A with someone like Roman might make sense, or we might have all the answers to the things we might have kind of wanted to get anyway. So I didn't realize there was a bit of a clash there. Sometimes you just got to move on these things, and there's an opportunity, you just got to kind of grasp it.
I've got loads of other people, but I don't know if it was worthwhile having like a follow-up meetup like a month or 2 later and like really dig into details from somebody that works on the project.
Yeah.
What's the community's view on kind of a theme running through meetups? Is that something people are interested in, or is it the more random nature would be better?
I don't know, to be honest. It's an interesting one.
Because it's, I suppose I kind of thought of that Nikolai's talk following on from what Ron had mentioned in the Q&A. The deliberations that they had about what they did on Project Loom, kind of it linked, I joined the two and went, that was an interesting topic. What he said about those deliberations they had led to Nikolai. But is that of interest that there's a continuous theme?
I think it would be. I suppose the challenge is kind of tying them together and getting, like, when they're quite far apart, the theme, I don't know if you can kind of maintain that connection between the two events very easily. So maybe we should kind of talk about that one a bit more in Slack and try and kind of think about a bit more about what that might look like. Because unfortunately, I'm gonna have to kind of finish up this Zoom call. I've got another meeting that I've got to get into now. So I think that sounds like it's been useful for you all while I was away as well. Anyway, some good stuff's been chatted about. But yeah, I think let's continue any conversations on things we want to in Slack. Hopefully we can get a few things set up as well. Like say for those in-person meetups, that'd be nice to see people in person and share a beer or a coffee or a water, whatever that might be. And yeah, we'll set another of these up for maybe a month's time or something, and we can kind of catch up again anyway. Cool. All right. Well, cheers everybody. Thanks very much for coming.
Thanks everyone.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.